I walked in holding roses and two first-class tickets to Bora Bora. Bright red, long-stemmed, cost me over $200. The receptionist at the front desk grinned and whispered something into her headset. Everyone started clapping. I thought it was for me. Turns out I was just part of the audience. My name's Daniel. I'm 41. I live in San Diego. So I followed the noise into the main bullpen, ready to surprise my wife. I had it all rehearsed. "Happy Valentine's Day, babe. Pack your bags. We leave tonight." Thought she'd scream, jump into my arms, kiss me like she used to. But she was already kissing someone. Right there in the center of the office, under balloons and camera flashes, was my wife, Natalie, locked onto another man. Tall, tan, sharp suit. The regional VP of a competing firm. I'd seen him once at a mixer last year. Couldn't stand him even then. She was wearing a ring. Huge, flashy, bigger than the one I gave her 10 years ago. People were popping champagne, hugging her, saying things like, "Finally," and "You two are perfect together." Not a single person looked my way. I just stood there, holding the flowers like an idiot, tickets folded in my jacket pocket. She didn't even notice me, not even a flinch of guilt. Quick note: before we go on, tell us, where are you watching from? I backed up, turned around, walked out without a word. No yelling, no scene, just silence. I threw the flowers in the trash by the elevator, canceled the trip on my phone before I even hit the lobby. 42 grand gone in 60 seconds. By the time I got home, the apartment felt like a stranger's place. Everything was spotless, white, expensive. She'd designed every inch of it. I poured myself a scotch, pulled the curtains shut, and just stood there by the window. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just stood there, staring out over downtown, watching the lights flicker on in buildings we used to dream about owning. That was the moment, not the kiss, not the ring. That quiet second, glass in hand, ice cracking, when I realized it was already over. She'd been gone for a while. I was just too stupid to see it. The next morning, I opened the safe, pulled out the old folder she probably forgot still existed, and dropped it on the table. It had the company seal I paid to create, the first invoice I signed, the ownership documents, all in my name, and I smiled. I flipped open the folder and pulled out the ownership docs. My name was still there. 82%, locked in, signed and notarized. I'd filed the articles of incorporation myself in that tiny office off Market Street. Back then, she didn't even know how to read a balance sheet. She had the face, the charm, the press contacts. I had the back end, the lawyers, and the money. She was on magazine covers giving TED Talks about women-led legacy, while I quietly made payroll every month. I built the engine, she just drove the car. I grabbed my laptop, logged into the company banking portal, and started flipping switches. First, the corporate credit cards. Froze them all. Hers, the assistants, the VPs. Then I pulled up the vendor contracts, catering, monthly spa packages, a subscription florist who delivered mood-lifting arrangements twice a week. Canceled the whole circus. The Napa trip, gone. 5-star resort booking, revoked. Black car service, pulled. I even called the private chef she lined up for the tasting dinner and told him the event was off. He didn't ask questions, just said, "Copy that," and hung up. The CFO emailed me mid-click. Subject: issue with account access. Body: looks like something's up with the ops card. Can we talk? Didn't respond. I wasn't ready to talk. Not until the noise started. Less than 10 minutes later, my phone started vibrating. First it was her, then again, then a third time. Voicemail after voicemail. A few minutes later, it was the assistant. Then the CFO again. Then, unbelievably, the new fiancé. I let them all go to voicemail. The guy had the audacity to text me. "Can we handle this like adults? You're embarrassing her." I stared at the screen for a second, then shut my phone off. Sat back in the chair and poured another glass of scotch. Let the silence settle. You want to know what it felt like? It felt like slamming the brakes on a runaway train that had been dragging me behind it for years. I didn't even realize how fast things had gotten, how far I'd let it go. Every card I froze was a breath I could finally take. Quick note: before we keep going, drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? By midnight, I was back in the files. I saw things I'd ignored for too long. She'd approved $12,000 for custom candles with the company logo, hired a vision stylist to redesign her outfits, took 5 employees on a creativity retreat that cost more than my first year of rent out of college. Everything had become about the image, the aesthetic, the experience. The company stopped being a business and turned into her personal brand factory, and I let her do it. I made it possible. I signed the checks, but not anymore. The next morning, the calls came in again, this time angry. The assistant left a voicemail that was half panicked, half furious. Nobody's card works. I can't get through to payroll. What the hell is going on? You can't just do this, Daniel. Then the CFO left one. Look, man, I don't know what happened between you and Natalie, but you can't jeopardize operations like this. We've got legal exposure. They were worried now. They should have been. I'd already moved funds into protected holding accounts, set up alerts for withdrawal attempts, and gave the legal team a heads up. No one signed squat without my okay. I wasn't being petty. I was cleaning house. I went through every expense, every auto renewal, every vanity project she had in motion, and cut it off at the knees. Her little empire of brunch meetings and stage photo ops was built on my silent support. She wanted to forget that. I was just here to remind her. And I wasn't done yet. Around 11 the next morning, my buzzer rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Thought it was food delivery until I heard her voice through the speaker. "It's Riley. Please, can I come up?" I hit the button. She stepped into the apartment looking like she'd just sprinted through a war zone. Messy ponytail, eyes wide, still wearing her office badge. She didn't even say hi. Just dropped her messenger bag and stood in the doorway, chest heaving. "Okay," she said. "I don't know what's going on, but nobody's getting paid. Payroll didn't run. My card got declined trying to buy printer ink. Even the janitors didn't get their checks." I didn't answer right away. Just walked to the counter, poured a second coffee, and handed her the mug. She took it, but didn't drink. Vendors are already bailing, like hard. One guy straight up said he won't work with a circus in heels. She winced. His words, not mine. I nodded toward the couch. "Sit down, Riley." She did. "She's freaking out," she added. "Her card got declined at the coffee shop this morning. They comped the latte because she made such a scene. And, her fiancé? His expense card's frozen too. He's pissed." I opened the drawer in my desk, pulled out a thick white envelope, and dropped it on the coffee table in front of her. "What is that?" "Everything she needs to move on." I sat across from her. Her resignation, repayment demands, formal acknowledgement of my role in founding the company. She didn't reach for it, just stared like it might explode. "Why are you giving this to me?" she whispered. "Because you're the only one in that building who still seems capable of telling the truth." Quick pause. "While you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from." She swallowed hard, then finally picked up the envelope, turned it over in her hands like she was stalling. Her voice cracked a little. "They said you went nuclear, that you're sabotaging everything out of spite." "Do I look like I'm panicking, Riley?" She looked around the room, half lit, still messy from the night before, papers spread everywhere. But I wasn't sweating. I was steady, sharp. "No," she admitted. "Honestly, no." "Good, because I'm not." She nodded slowly. I could see the gears turning. She was young, but not dumb. Fresh out of college, sure, but not blind. I could tell this whole mess was weighing on her. "Can I ask something?" she said. "Was it really about the cheating?" "It was about the disrespect," I said flat. "Marriage isn't a marketing campaign. You don't stage betrayal for the cameras and call it strategy." Her face twisted. Guilt, maybe, or shame, or both. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "About the ownership, about you starting the company. No one did. She wanted it that way." She held the envelope tighter. "What if she won't sign?" "She'll sign," I said. "If she wants her image to survive, she'll sign." I stood up. That was the end of the conversation. Riley got the message. She stood too, slowly, and looked at me one last time before heading for the door. "You know, I really thought she had it all figured out." I shrugged. She had the lighting figured out. The truce a little harder to package. The door clicked shut behind her. Now, the real countdown had started. She showed up just before midnight. I was on the couch, glass in hand, watching a documentary I wasn't even really following when I heard the buzzer. I didn't move at first, thought maybe Riley had come back. Then it buzzed again, relentless this time. I checked the monitor, and there she was, Natalie, standing under the flickering porch light, hair messy, makeup smeared, still in her designer heels, still wearing the damn ring. I let the door click open but didn't say a word. She came up fast, banging on the apartment door like she had every right to be there. When I opened it, she froze. Her chest was heaving, and her eyeliner had run down both cheeks. "Please," she said out of breath. "Please just talk to me." I didn't move aside. She kept going. "It wasn't real. The engagement. It wasn't real. I needed to know you still cared. I thought, maybe if I shook things up, you'd finally fight for me." I blinked. "You kissed another man, on camera, in front of your staff." "It wasn't about him. It was about us." She tried to push past me, but I blocked the door. "It was never about him. I needed to wake you up." "You could have used your words," I snapped, "not your mouth on some other guy's face." Quick pause before it gets worse. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. She finally stopped trying to push her way in. Her arms dropped to her sides. "I didn't think you'd ever notice me again if I didn't make it big. If I didn't make noise." I stared at her. "You didn't make noise. You made a scene." Silence. Her eyes filled up, and I could see the cracks forming. She'd come here ready to twist it, spin it, fix it with a performance. But the moment didn't stick. Nothing landed. She broke. Tears spilled down her face as she leaned her head against the doorframe. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't even know what I was trying to prove anymore. I've lost control of everything." "You didn't lose control," I said. "You gave it away." She slid to the floor, back against the hallway wall. "I'll resign," she whispered. "I'll pay it back, all of it. The vendors, the retreats, the stylist. I'll write it out line by line. I'll even do the press release." I finally stepped out into the hallway and sat down across from her. Not next to her. Across. We weren't on the same side anymore. "This isn't revenge, Natalie," I said calmly. "This is what the end of something looks like. I just didn't know it ended until I saw you wearing another man's ring." She looked down at her hand like it hadn't even registered she still had it on. Then she ripped it off and let it fall to the carpet. It didn't roll, just thudded once and stayed still. "I ruined everything, didn't I?" I didn't answer. "You didn't even yell," she added. "You just disappeared. That's what people do when the story's already written. They stop adding pages." She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. It was the first time I'd seen her without a mask in years. Not on stage, not curated, not polished, just raw, messy, small. I kept thinking if I built something huge, you'd finally look at me the way you used to. "I was busy building it with you," I said. "But I guess you needed more cameras." She looked up at me with red eyes. "What do I do now?" "You signed the papers." That was it. Nothing left to negotiate. I stood up, walked back into the apartment, and left the door open behind me. She followed. She followed me inside without a word. I didn't speak again that night. Just left the resignation packet on the kitchen island and went to bed. 3 days later, I walked into the boardroom. It was glass-walled, modern, cold, like everything she'd built. The conference table looked like a damn spaceship, and there were croissants and bottled juices laid out like some kind of TED Talk brunch. Half the board didn't even look up when I walked in. Until I set down the binder, that got their attention. I didn't clear my throat or ask for permission. I just started. "As of this morning, I'm exercising majority control, 82% ownership, signed and confirmed. Legal reviewed it." A few eyebrows went up. "I built this company, funded it, filed the LLC paperwork in a shared office on B Street. While she was posing for cover shoots, I was running payroll, legal, and operations from a folding desk with a cracked monitor." I opened the binder and started laying out documents, bank statements, credit card reports, internal memos. Over $130,000 spent in the last fiscal year on brand presence experiences. That includes luxury spa weekends for execs, private stylists, chartered wine tastings, and something called a personalized scent curator. One of them, Gavin, the tech lead, shifted in his seat. "You're saying this was unauthorized?" "I'm saying it was funded by investor money without proper board disclosure," I said. "And I have the receipts to prove it." Quick break. Before we keep going, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Natalie sat across from me, silent, pale. She hadn't touched the croissant in front of her. The ring was gone. Her hands were shaking under the table. I looked directly at her. "You have the floor." She stood, slow and stiff, like every joint hurt, cleared her throat, looked at the board, then down at the printed statement in her hands. "I am resigning, effective immediately," she read, voice flat. "Daniel is the founder and majority owner of this company. I acknowledge his role in building it, funding it, and sustaining it. I also acknowledge misusing discretionary funds without proper oversight or board approval." Dead silence. No one moved, no one reached for their water bottles. The same people who used to act like I was just Natalie's husband were now watching me like I'd rewritten the floor plan mid-meeting. I stepped forward again. "Effective today, I'm reinstating financial oversight protocols. There will be no more luxury retreats, no stylists on retainer, and no fiancé-level expense cards." That last line hit. A couple of them flinched. They knew exactly who I meant. "I'm also issuing a formal block on any business affiliation with Paul Carver or his firm. If you want to remain on this board, you'll back that." The vote was quick, unanimous. I was CEO again. Natalie sat down quietly after the vote, eyes glassy but dry. She didn't speak, didn't look at me, didn't even pack up her things. Just sat there like someone who finally understood the storm she'd stirred up wasn't a publicity stunt. It was real. I didn't gloat, didn't smile. I just closed my binder, gave one last look around the room, and said, "We start cleaning this place up tomorrow." On my way out, no one stopped me. No one whispered or smirked or clapped. Just silence. That silence told me everything. They finally saw who ran this place. The morning after the boardroom vote, I sat across from two crisis consultants in a sleek office downtown. Leather chairs, glass walls. Everything smelled like lemon polish and money. One of them, a guy named Trevor with perfectly styled hair and no soul behind his eyes, clicked through a PowerPoint titled Brand Narrative Realignment. He smiled like we were old friends. "So here's what we're thinking. We frame this as a graceful leadership transition. Natalie stepping aside to pursue new projects, you stepping up to modernize operations. Clean, classy, no personal drama." The woman next to him, maybe late 20s, red lipstick, didn't blink once, added, "We've even mocked up a joint photo for the press, something warm, something collaborative." I didn't say a word. Trevor pushed a printed mock-up across the table. Natalie and me, side by side, smiling like we'd just renewed our vows. The headline read, "Founders Refocus, Vision, Leadership, and the Next Chapter." I stared at it for maybe 2 seconds before I stood up. "You're both fired," Trevor blinked. "Wait, no more spin, no more pretending. I'm not photoshopping reality for anyone." Red lipstick looked up like I'd spit in her oat milk. "But public perception can catch up," I said, already walking out. Quick note, before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from? Later that afternoon, she found me again. Natalie texted me from a blocked number, said she just wanted to talk. We met at a coffee shop in Mission Hills, one of those quiet places with too much reclaimed wood and not enough outlets. She looked smaller, not just physically. The energy, the presence, all gone. She didn't even order anything. "I saw the draft you sent to legal," she said. "It's brutal." "It's factual," I replied. "You resigned. I'm taking over. We're moving forward." She picked at the sleeve of her cardigan, some expensive brand she used to flaunt. "Can we at least soften the language? Say I'm stepping down to focus on mentorship or philanthropy or something?" "No." Her jaw tensed. "You really want my whole legacy to burn? You built your legacy on branding, not substance. That's not my fault." She looked away, eyes damp but not crying. "I just didn't expect you to be this cold." Cold would have been silence. I'm giving you a statement with dignity. You want spin? Call Trevor. She laughed once, bitter. You fired them, didn't you? I nodded. We sat in silence for a few seconds. Then I pushed the folder toward her. The final version of the release. 3 paragraphs, plain font, black and white. She scanned it, lips tight. I don't like it, she muttered. You're not supposed to. She slid the folder back. Fine. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and didn't wait for her to follow. I wasn't in the business of protecting illusions anymore. 3 days after that coffee shop meeting, I got an email with the subject line, "Rejected pitch, still worth your time?" The sender's name was Layla Sanderson, 28, MIT grad, former speech pathology intern turned software developer. Said she'd pitched my ex-wife last year at a networking event and got told her idea wasn't glamorous enough for the brand. Her email was short, direct, and didn't ask for much, just a visit. So I went. The office was a converted warehouse in Chula Vista. No marble, no mood lighting, just concrete floors, hand-me-down desks, and half a dozen people eating bagels over keyboards. I liked it immediately. Layla met me near the door, hair in a messy bun, wearing jeans and a faded Caltech hoodie. No pitch deck, no fake smile. Just a firm handshake and a whiteboard already covered in code and color blocks. "This is our prototype," she said, leading me over. "We're calling it M-Text." I squinted at the interface. Looked simple, boring, almost. But then she started explaining. It reads microtone in written communication, flags emotionally loaded language, sarcasm, passive aggression, deflection, manipulation, and gives real-time context suggestions. We built it for workplace messaging, but it's already helping teachers and therapists in small trials. I leaned in. "You mean it can tell when someone's trying to gaslight you over Slack?" She grinned. "Basically, yeah. It wasn't flashy. It was smart, practical, real." "You built all this after one rejection?" I asked. She shrugged. "No, we started it before that. The rejection just told us who not to trust." I walked the floor, met her engineers, 2 guys in flannels and a woman with a service dog sleeping under her desk. They didn't care who I was. Nobody offered me bottled water or tried to hand me branded swag. It felt like walking through the opposite of my ex-wife's empire, and it felt good. Quick check-in. Before we keep going, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I sat down with Layla in a makeshift break room. Folding chairs, no coffee machine, just an old thermos and a jar of peanut butter on the counter. "I want in," I said. 20 million, 40% equity. I want a board seat and I want one condition written into the charter. She raised an eyebrow. "What condition?" "No fake luxury, no champagne fountains, no private chefs on payroll. You build something real, you keep it real." She didn't hesitate. "Deal." Before I left, I added one more thing. "Hire Riley." She paused. "The assistant?" "The one person who told the truth when everything else blew up. She's loyal, and she sees the cracks before they spread." Layla nodded. "I'll reach out tonight." We didn't take a photo. No handshake selfie for LinkedIn, no announcement draft. I walked out with nothing but a gut feeling, and for once, that was enough. The warehouse door clanged shut behind me, and I stood there for a second, hands in my pockets, sun hitting me right in the face. For the first time in years, I wasn't backing someone's illusion. I was finally building something that felt real again. I got home from Layla's warehouse, looked around the penthouse, and knew it was time. 34 floors up, everything polished, staged, cold. The place looked like a magazine layout. Chrome fixtures, marble counters, floor-to-ceiling windows that never opened, and silence that echoed off every damn surface. I'd spent years pretending that space felt like home. I called a moving company the next morning, told them I wanted everything wrapped and gone by the end of the week. Art, furniture, dishes, even the monogram towels she insisted on. Take it all. The crew showed up in gray hoodies and steel-toed boots. Barely spoke except to ask what was fragile. They moved fast, efficient, detached. It felt perfect. By Friday, all that fake life was in boxes, headed to storage I'd probably never touch. I grabbed my laptop bag, tossed one suitcase in the back of my truck, and drove across town. No penthouse view, no concierge. Just a third-floor walk-up in North Park. My new apartment had creaky wood floors, peeling paint near the windows, and a working-class soul, the kind of place where neighbors say hi in the hallway and borrow sugar like it's still the 90s. Quick note, while you're listening, drop a comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. My neighbor across the hall, a retired librarian named June, knocked that night and handed me a Tupperware of homemade pork dumplings. No pitch, no ask, no talk about business or synergy, just food. I stood in that tiny kitchen, leaning against chipped tile, and ate 5 dumplings straight from the container. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. Nobody cared who I was. No one looked at me like I was a ladder to climb. At the corner cafe, I sat next to a guy sketching cartoon animals and a woman arguing about public school budgets. It was the first place I'd been in a decade where the air didn't reek of competition. Then Columbia called. Some old contact from an alumni event had passed along my name. They needed someone to teach a course on practical tech applications. Nothing flashy, just real-world tools for real-world problems. Remote, part-time, flexible. Not high-paying, the department head warned, but fulfilling. I said yes on the spot. No branding, no applause, just students and code and problems worth solving. I didn't tell anyone, didn't post about it. Just marked it on my calendar and started outlining a syllabus on a notepad that still had the old company's logo at the top. That night, I sat on my fire escape, feet up on the railing, drinking a $12 bottle of red that didn't need a press release to matter. For the first time in a long damn while, I wasn't chasing anything. I was just living. The first week of classes, I stared out at a dozen kids who couldn't care less about branding. They weren't trying to go viral or slap their name on a product. They just wanted to build stuff that mattered. One kid named Chinedu was designing crop management software for rural farms in Nigeria. Smart, quiet, barely spoke. But his code was sharp. Another, Sarah, was deep into a project on healthcare bias. She wanted to rework diagnostic models so they'd stop failing people who didn't fit the data the system was trained on. Nobody in that class was trying to impress investors. They were trying to fix things. I taught in sweatshirts and sneakers. No suit, no tie. No one called me CEO. They called me Daniel, and for the first time, I liked the sound of my own name without a title behind it. Halfway through the semester, I got the letter. It came in a pale cream envelope, the kind you buy in sets of 10 when you still believe in handwritten notes. No return address, just my name and a San Diego postmark. I recognized the handwriting right away. I opened it standing in the mailroom of my building, the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead and the smell of somebody's burnt toast from down the hall. She wrote 4 pages, said she was in Oregon now, working at a nonprofit that teaches coding to underprivileged kids. No pay, no press, no perks. Just long days, a laptop, and a chalkboard. Said she lives in a 2-bedroom rental with a leaky roof and a view of the woods. Sometimes I hear birds before I open my eyes, she wrote. It's not glamorous, but it's good. She talked about the kids, how one of them made a tic-tac-toe game with sound effects that crashed the school's Wi-Fi. How another one taught their mom how to send emails for the first time. She said it was the first time she ever felt like her work stuck to something. And then, halfway down page 3, I believe my own hype. I see that now. I thought if I kept building the image, the meaning would show up eventually. But the image was all it ever was. A shell. Quick break while you're listening. Tell me in the comments, has someone in your life ever chased the image instead of the truth? She didn't ask for forgiveness, not directly, didn't try to make excuses either. Just said she finally understood what I meant when I used to talk about quiet value. I get it now, she wrote. It's not about being seen. It's about doing something worth seeing, even if no one ever does. I read the letter once, then again. Folded it back up, slid it into the drawer next to my lease agreement and the syllabus I was revising for next semester. I didn't feel angry, not anymore. I didn't feel vindicated either. I just felt done. She'd learned something, in her own way, on her own timeline. Not for me, for herself. And I was okay with that, because I'd moved on. I had students writing algorithms to solve food waste. I had neighbors who brought over cookies instead of compliments. I had an inbox full of bug reports, midterms, and one kid who needed an extension because his sister was in the hospital. I had enough. A month after that letter, Layla's team closed a major contract with Microsoft. It wasn't flashy, no gala, no press junket, but the deal was real. Seven-figure licensing, a 5-year support pipeline, and a pilot program already rolling out in corporate HR systems. She didn't send me a champagne bottle or a fruit basket. Just a one-line email that said, "We did it, on our terms." Riley was already leading their partnerships team. Last time we talked, she'd just hired 2 interns and was setting up a grant program for early career developers with disabilities. That girl had more spine than most execs I'd worked with in 20 years. Back at my company, the original one, things were simple again. We'd cut the fluff. No stylists, no travel lounges, no branded candles on desks. Just product, process, and delivery. We were profitable. Quietly, efficiently. The Columbia class filled up faster than I expected. I was teaching kids who didn't care about IPOs. They cared about building hospital apps that saved lives, municipal systems that actually worked, food delivery networks for people without smartphones. The work was unpolished, but it mattered. Then a journalist reached out, said she was doing a feature on quiet tech, founders who'd stepped away from the spotlight and come back to build things differently. We sat down for coffee. She asked about the rise, the fall, the comeback. I gave her the short version. At the end, she leaned in. "After everything, what does success look like to you now?" I thought about that penthouse, the applause, the magazine covers, the betrayal in that office on Valentine's Day. I thought about Riley walking into my apartment with shaking hands, and Layla in that warehouse with a peanut butter jar and a whiteboard covered in code. Then I said it. Success is when the work speaks louder than your image. She nodded like she got it. Maybe she did. Quick pause. What does success look like to you? Tell me in the comments. No cameras, no curated narrative, just code that runs. People who care, systems that help. That was enough.